Hello, I'm Rudul Sutar, Assistant Professor, YCS Institute, Satara. I'm going to be covering MSc Part 2, Applied Microbiology Syllabus, Pharmaceutical Microbiology. From that, I'll be focusing on Drug Discovery and Development Unit 2. Now, as a microbiology student, I'm sure you must be confused about why we need to study drug discovery and development rather than studying the pharmaceutical or microbiological aspect of the pharmaceutical industry. To make sure you'll understand it quite clearly after this slide, that first, we are in the pandemic situation. All of us are in the pandemic situation. We are listening and we are reading on social media and on newspapers that lots of vaccines and drugs are getting discovered and getting approved. So last month we have discovered this vaccine. They have launched this clinical trial Covaxin. It's the native Indian drug. Then we have received these multiple drug manufacturers have launched these drugs with various pricings. Last month, WHO stopped the hydroxychloroquine clinical trial. Now, hydroxychloroquine created a lot of buzz around COVID-19 treatment spectrum, but WHO stopped it abruptly. So, why did it stop? Then, we all know that Serum Institute is a major pharmaceutical industry in India which has participated with the clinical trials and manufacturing proceedings with Oxford University, and they have started in July itself producing the vaccines. And yesterday, there was a newspaper article regarding COVID-19 vaccine getting clinical trials approved getting clinical trials in India. So, in our day-to-day lives, we also get impacted with the pharmaceutical industry and drug discovery and development process. As an individual who receives drugs, who needs drugs, we need to understand what are all those proceedings that undergo in the drug discovery and development steps. Now, you have seen all the required criteria for a drug to get discovered and to be launched in the market. So first we have seen this is a start or lead identification step. From the first step to the launch of that drug, it requires at least 12 to 15 years of research and development. So for that aspect also we need to understand how the drug development and discovery proceedings undergo. The points that are to be covered in this lecture are going to introductory. So students from the microbiology background, from the chemistry background, or general public can understand from this lecture that the basic concept that undergoes into the drug development and the general terminology that is to be used in the drug development proceedings. So the first Paul Ehrlich and the significant terms that are important for the drug development processes are going to be discussed in these lectures. So the important term, first term is drug. A drug is basically a molecule that attaches itself to the various biomolecules. Those biomolecules must be involved in some kind of a disease development, and if we incorporate that drug into that individual or for that disease causing cell or receptor, that condition has to be positively affected. So that is drug. The second is receptor. We know as a life science student that every cell has a receptor on it. That receptor will affect itself, or that receptor has a major impact on cell signaling processes or gene expression processes. So if that certain receptor is manipulated in a way that the disease can be positively affected, then that receptor can be used as a druggable receptor, so that that drug can change the receptor's signaling pathways and the disease can get cured or may get cured. So third is the ligand. Ligand, as we see here, in biochemistry and pharmacology, a ligand is a substance that forms a complex with any biomolecule. In the life sciences, especially in life sciences, ligand is any molecule. It may be an artificial or a naturally present inside your body. That ligand can form a complex with your biomolecule or a receptor, and then can cause or manipulate the signaling pathways. Second is target discovery. Again, we have learned what a receptor is. So this target discovery is nothing but a receptor. We have to discover a particular receptor necessary for that disease to cause. Here we are emphasizing on the discovery of a receptor. Suppose there is a cancer causing cell. Now I have to discover a drug that I need to attach my drug to that certain receptor. So I have to find out the cell that is causing cancer, the receptor on that cell that is causing the signaling pathway. That signaling pathway in turn is causing the cell to stop its apoptosis and uncontrollable cell disease. So if I find that receptor and if I find the binding site of that receptor and I'll study that binding site, and then I'll discover or find a drug that will get attached to that receptor and the signaling pathway, I can manipulate them. So that is a target discovery. Target discovery is nothing but finding a receptor that is involved in that disease causing process. Then target validation. Target validation is confirming that the receptor that you have chosen, a receptor that you have found that is causing the disease, is that receptor itself. Sometimes in the life sciences processes, a lot of time it happens that there are multiple enzymes that are playing parts in that signaling process. So if a particular receptor is causing the disease, it does not necessarily mean that the only receptor is involved in the disease causing process. There must be multiple enzymes or multiple cofactors are involved. So we have to negate all those different molecules or cofactors that are affecting the signaling process, so that we will find the sole receptor that is causing that disease. Then lead compound. Lead compound is a representative of a compound series with sufficient potential. The potential is measured in this potency, selectivity, pharmacokinetics, physiochemical properties, absence of toxicity and novelty. All these potentials are studied for the number of spectrum of compounds, and then the one compound that is manipulating a receptor in a very positive and efficient manner, that lead compound is selected. Then hit, a compound which has the desired activity in a compound screen and whose activity is confirmed upon testing. Hit is in a spectrum of lead compounds. You have to find out again a very specific, very potential and very effective drug, so that you will have the 100% effective drug candidate for the receptor to manipulate. And then lead discovery, again within the multiple arena or within the spectrum of various drugs, you have to find out or you have to check for the potential drug. Lead optimization. This is the important aspect of the drug discovery process. Once we find the lead compound or the lead drug, then we have to optimize the structure of that lead drug so that it will effectively attach to your receptor binding site. If the 80% of the lead compound, if the binding affinity or the binding specificity is only 80%, then the effect after the drug or after the incorporation of drug will not be 100%. So in order to get the 100% effect or 100% potency of the drug, you have to have a perfectly structured binding site who has the 100% specific binding to the receptor binding site in order to manipulate that receptor very effectively. Then candidate selection, again there are multiple assays that undergo in drug discovery process, and after each selective process multiple drugs get selected and some of them are left behind. So first, at the end of that step, you have to have at least 2 to 3 drugs that are with 100% potency and 100% specificity that can be used to manipulate your receptor or as a drug candidate. Now the steps are First, we have learned that the target discovery and validation. Target discovery is finding the receptor that is involved in the disease causing process, and validation is confirming that receptor is actually involved in that disease. No other enzyme or cofactor or other receptors are manipulating or affecting that process or signaling pathway. Second is assay development. Various types of assays are developed in order to find the perfect drug or perfect drug candidate or lead compound, so that we can check the spectrum of our molecule drug candidates against our receptors. The receptor or the target for our drug has to be druggable. The binding site of the receptor has to be druggable in order for us to create a drug. Then hit to lead. When we get 10, suppose we get 10 drug candidates, out of those 10 we'll proceed with the various assays, and then we'll get suppose 3 good candidates that can be used for further investigations. Then lead optimization. After the selection of some of the drug compounds, we will optimize the drugs to optimize the structure or the energy levels or everything, that drug structure, so that it will get attached, it will be binding to the receptor with 100% specificity. And again, the lead optimization, in lead optimization you have to change the structure or functional groups of your drug, but you shouldn't change the functional groups or the structure of the drug so that it will change its native property of manipulating that receptor. So you have to be careful there. You have to change so much as to increase its binding affinity or reduce its toxicity. You shouldn't change as much to change its whole nature itself. Then preclinical trials, again a very important step in drug discovery and development. After lead optimization, you'll get a drug with 100% specificity, good binding properties, less toxicity, and then they proceed with the clinical trials. Preclinical trials are usually held on cell lines. In vitro, there are clinical trials. There are 4 phases of clinical trials. All of them are held in laboratories on humans. Now, the approaches in pharmacology, there are 2 approaches when it comes to drug discovery. The first approach is forward pharmacology, and the second is reverse pharmacology. In forward pharmacology, first the compound, you have to discover the compound first, and then you will check its biological function on various receptors or the cells or the diseases, and then you determine the mechanism in which your drug or your compound that you have discovered is acting on that cell. In reverse pharmacology, you'll isolate the target first. That means you'll discover the target, you'll discover the receptor that is involved in that disease causing process. Then you will find out the perfect drug that is attaching or that is binding to your receptor. That drug is found in the stored databases. There are stored databases of various compounds, various proteins, like protein database or various zinc database or mine database. You can find various proteins or compounds with all the information that you need for that drug, that you can use to isolate from that library the drug that is perfect for your receptor. And then comes the lead optimization, where you optimize the drug that you have found from the data bank. You optimize by changing its functional group with rational drug designing, with the use of structure-activity relationship. So this is the difference between the forward pharmacology and the reverse pharmacology. They are exactly opposite of each other. In forward, you discover the drug first, and in reverse pharmacology, you find the receptor that is involved in that drug. So this is the important part. The reverse pharmacology approach takes about 2 years to obtain a new drug candidate, while in forward pharmacology, you will need to find the drug first, then you will find the receptors or the disease that it can act on. Then once you find the disease that you can use your drug for, you will find the mechanisms that are involved in that disease curing process. In reverse, it will take just 2 years to find the drug, because the receptor and the mechanism that is causing the disease is already known. So you just have to find out the drug that is binding itself to the receptor. So in forward or classical pharmacology, it is expensive, it is very time consuming, it requires conventional method of bioprospecting. We will see it in the following slide what it is, and it has been used in a lot of Ayurvedic treatments. So in traditional ways, Ayurveda has always used the traditional pharmacologist method to discover a drug that can be used in various diseases. In reverse or target-based drug discovery, the method become popular after the Human Genome Project. Naturally, after the Human Genome Project, it is easy to find out the genes that are involved in the disease causing process. It is easy to find out the signaling pathways that are involved in those processes, and it is very easy to find out the proteins that are involved in those processes. So when we get just the gene, from that we will get all the information from the Human Genome Project, and we will know for sure what receptor is to be targeted by our drug. And again, in this reverse pharmacological method, the hypothesis is made that the modulation of the activity of a specific protein target, that is receptor, will have beneficial therapeutic effects. Here, classical pharmacology. First, functional activity. Ligand purification. Functional activity means first you will find out the drug, and then the scientist will check the functional activity of that drug against various receptors, and then biological and pathophysiological studies are made. Then after that the mechanism investigation starts, where the mechanism that is involved in the drug development is studied. So here are some naturally occurring medicines that are found in all those flowers and plants. We see this Zinca rosea sadafuli we see in our gardens. It has 2 potent anti-cancer drugs that can be used against leukemia, vinblastine and vincristine. This is Artemisia annua. Artemisinin, it gives the medicine artemisinin. Pacific yew bark, which Taxol, the drug Taxol can be extracted from the Pacific yew bark, which is a potent anti-cancer drug. Digitalis, this again is a commonly found drug. Digitalin, the heart medicine, is found in this flower. Then aspirin, the widely known medicine that is used for headache and heart attack symptoms, is found in the Spirea species of flowers. And then Vinca rosea sadafuli, we all know this plant. This is the interesting assignment for all those who are interested. These are all the plants with their scientific names on it. So you can Google it and find out what are the important or widely used drugs that can be found in all these plants. So all these are natural products. The natural products are secondary metabolites that are produced by the plants. Those secondary metabolites are not required by the plant. They are generally made for the protection purposes, and evolutionary pressure triggers the production of such secondary metabolites. Then the conventional method of bioprospecting. So what is a bioprospecting? Bioprospecting is a systematic search for biochemical and genetic information in nature in order to develop commercially valuable products for pharmaceutical, agricultural, cosmetic and other applications. So in bioprospecting, in a very crude way, we can explain bioprospecting like when we go in the jungle, we will look for the medicinal plants. We take those medicinal plants in our homes or in our laboratories. We'll extract the important medicinal medicinal drugs or medicinal compounds from them, from various extraction techniques, and we will check those extracted products on various ailments. So that is conventional method of bioprospecting, where we go into the nature and look for the medicines. The phases of bioprospecting start from sample collection. First we go into the nature and collect the samples of the plants like neem or like sadafuli or dhotra. Then we collect those samples. Then isolation, we isolate the medicinal products from those plants with various techniques of extraction. Then characterization. In characterization, the extracted products are characterized with various techniques like XRD, NMR, homology modeling, and then to the product development and launch to the market. Again, an important term you have to know with respect to the bioprospecting part is the Nagoya Protocol. This protocol was made legally binding to the lot of nations in the world. This protocol makes sure that there is a regulation to the access of genetic information of various nations, and there is a fair and equitable sharing of the utilization of those bioproducts. There was an issue happened regarding curcumin or the halal or the neem tree or the basmati rice. All these three species or all these three plants are native to the India, but the foreign nations took patents on all these species, and then we have to pay the money for their use. So to stop all this biopiracy, Nagoya Protocol was made binding to all the nations so that biopiracy is prevented, and the native species or the native people that have been using that knowledge and that have been using those species for a very long time will gain profit from all those knowledge rather than the pharmaceutical companies or the laboratories in foreign countries. So this is all in the first lecture. This is a very introductory basic lecture. Again, we will see in future lectures what are the techniques that are involved in the extraction methods or the characterization methods, and how the clinical trials will proceed. So thank you.